Hello and welcome to the Strategic Bookkeeper podcast. In this episode, we are continuing the conversation around pricing, which is pricing and profit for joy. Okay. And it actually follows on from plan for success. Now, the reason I call it pricing for profit and joy is primarily because I often meet bookkeepers and I can totally relate to this from the first 5 years in my practice. And that is that I meet bookkeepers who, when they're honest with themselves, when they're honest with me, they tell me that they are busy, they've got lots of revenue, they've got lots of clients, but they're not happy. Okay. So in other words, the joy is not there, because we should absolutely love our practices, but we should also feel and see in the income and the time wealth that our bookkeeping practice is eventually returning us a reward for all the effort that we put into it, for all the love we give our clients, for everything that we do. Okay. So what I want to help you with when you get your pricing strategy and your productized services right is the ability to build a profitable practice that you really, really love. In the last episode, I gave you more of the headlines after sharing a story of a bookkeeper in practice to give you a different example to the one I gave you in the Plan for Success episode. In this episode, I want to go deeper. I want to give you more of the detail of what you need to do around pricing. So let's jump into the episode. I'm Jeannie Savage, the Strategic Bookkeeper. I've been in practice for 14 years, but more importantly, 5 years in, I achieved a lifestyle practice. This means I scaled my business, could take my hands off the wheel, and draw a nice six-figure income while being time rich. And that's what I call my dream on my terms. I was recently awarded Women in Finance Innovator of the Year, recognizing my book, my podcast, my program, and my impact globally. The Strategic Bookkeeper is my life's work, and the opportunity to help bookkeepers globally achieve the income and lifestyle that sets them free absolutely fills my cup. Please do connect with me on socials at the Strategic Bookkeepers Way private Facebook group, or shoot me an email, hello@thestrategicbookkeeper.global. Okay, my friends, let's get into it. So, pricing for profit and joy. The first thing I would love to let you know is that I have actually got the Pricing Academy available. Okay, so you can enroll in that. You can get started in that anytime. Okay, we'll put the link to it in the show notes. But if you're anything like me and you don't get a lot of time to look at show notes, it's really easy to find, depending on whether you go on your mobile device or you go on PC. You just go to my website, thestrategicbookkeeper.global, and then it's under courses. So there's two sections for working with me. One is work with me, where you find my signature program, okay? And the other one is courses, where I've got a few standalones. Now, as I record this podcast, I've got a few things open on my computer which are relevant to what I want to share with you. So in terms of the Pricing Academy and these podcasts, so Pricing for Profit and Joy, inside the Academy, we give you lots and lots of stuff. And ultimately, if I was kind of summarizing it, it would be, I give you my entire suite of productized services. So in terms of your blueprint for pricing and your blueprint as a bookkeeper generally, which I've got open right now, and we've shared this in the last couple of podcasts. My wonderful assistant drops a link in again in this one. But in the products and pricing, if you're looking at the blueprint like I'm looking at it, and inside the new book that I'm writing, you'll see that I give you 3 parts to the pricing equation. And that is smart, simple suite of products, robust pricing strategy, incorporating advisory, and all those things are inside the Pricing Academy. Okay, so just coming back to it for a second, my entire suite of productized services. Okay, so if you listen to the last episode, and also when we go deep on the detail in here, everything I tell you is inside there. Okay, and the way that a lot of the tribe inside the program use all this, they take my productized services and they basically copy them into Ignition software, which tends to be the most popular software for proposals for bookkeepers and accountants. But regardless of what you're using, you can use those. So if you're using a software, you can basically just copy and paste, put them in there, or if you're using something much simpler, like you're at the beginning of your journey and you're just creating Word documents or Google documents, they actually do come in Google documents. Okay. So, but what are the benefits of those? Well, the benefits is everything I'm telling you in the last podcast and this podcast. Okay. Ultimately, it took me a long time to get to a point where I stopped doing the what do you need and serving up the bespoke service tailored and really developing these productized services that just rocked my world. Okay. So I've talked a lot about that. So I feel like I'm just going to let you get the gist of that over the various podcasts. But to be crystal clear, pricing alone will oftentimes double a bookkeeper's net profit. It's what it did for me, as I've mentioned, back in 2015. Okay. And it's what I see a lot of inside the program. Now, you also get a pricing calculator inside the Pricing Academy. And the pricing calculator, it has all the rates that I've developed over time, which everyone, 100 members inside my transformation program are using, and it's working perfectly in their practice. So those rates are working really well for bookkeepers all over the world. When I talk about rates, what I mean is we have kind of perfected the amount of transactions going through your accounting file or an accounting file that you're quoting on, and the time that it takes to process those transactions. And then the other moving parts of what you need to consider when you are quoting work. Okay, so the pricing calculator is how you will scope and price work. We help you with exactly how you are going to deal with legacy clients versus how you're going to deal with new clients, how to separate the real bookkeeping work from the admin and accounts work. We go into wait lists. We go into price rises, so your annual price rises. You also get access to implementation sessions that we've recorded inside the transformation program. And actually inside there is the recording of the implementation session that I did with the bookkeeper whose story I shared in the last episode. And every time I do an implementer, or my right hand does around pricing, or we do a hot seat coaching where we work with one bookkeeper to benefit the many in front of everyone, or I record a private podcast for my tribe and it relates to pricing, I update the Pricing Academy with that content as like an optional lesson. So you do get the benefit of the updated content. Now, with all that shared, so you understand your options around Pricing Academy, which I will remind you is now included in the transformation program. Okay, so if you are going to come into the program when the doors open, then great, you will get the Pricing Academy. If you want to get the Pricing Academy on its own, then go to the website, check that out. And if you've got any questions, just shoot me an email. So now let me give you a bit more detail on some really basic stuff that you need to do around pricing. I feel like I've already covered off that you definitely want to be fixed pricing, okay? Fixed pricing is different to outcome billing, so I'll just explain that a bit. So a fixed price is ultimately... Quick podcast interruption. The doors to my transformation program are opening for one final time in 2024. This is your last chance to get in this year. To get all the details with zero obligation, head over to the strategicbookkeeper.global/waitlist. Add your name to the list to be the first in line for all the info and early access to exclusive bonuses. Do not miss out, my friends. I'll see you in there. Let's say I've got Tom the plumber and his work looks like it's going to take me about an hour a week. Maybe I want to factor in an extra hour a month for the end of month process. So let's say it's an hour and a quarter a week. Let's say, just to make it easy, that my charge out rate is $100 an hour, which actually at the time of recording this podcast, so the end of August 2024, is like average in Australia anyway. So if you're charging a lot less than $100 an hour, you're building a busy practice that will not give you the time or money, and that's not how you help your clients either. Okay, remembering the oxygen mask analogy. So if I was just fixed pricing, I would go, all right, well, that should be about $125 a week times 52 weeks in a year divided by 12, and that's going to give me $542 a month. Boom, there's my fixed price. There's your price. Now, that is actually very useful, and I recommend that as inside our pricing calculator, for example, and you need to develop a pricing calculator as well, then that is like a part of how we calculate somebody's plan, okay? You definitely want to add on software. So to go into the detail, for example, for us, we're going to add on the fees for Dext Prepare and Dext Precision. And in this example, that'll bring it up to about $571 a month, okay? Now, in that 3-part thing that I'm explaining in the blueprint, we talked products, pricing, incorporating advisory. So I'm going to jump over before I come back to incorporating advisory. So the next thing I want to mention is this is a new prospect, a new PC. That's what I call a prospective client. So this is a new PC that we're creating this proposal for. So imagining first we did the needs analysis, and then actually this prospective client has had a file health check done, which I charged $100 for in this example. This is the blueprint, my friends. You need to be doing exactly this, okay? So then that client engaged in a catch-up rectification, which in this case, it was only a small one, and it was $1,300, okay? And then so by this stage, they've got a lot of what I call time under tension with us. That comes from, I love weight training, and it's a weight training phrase, but I feel like time under tension. It's like this person has spent time with us under tension, meaning they've been boots in it, right? They've been file health check. They've had to let us pull the curtain back and kind of say, oh, there's problems with your file, which is always, nobody wants bad news. And then it's like, that means we have to do some catch-up rectification. It's all a bit yucky. So it's time under tension, but it's time to allow us to support them and help them and nurture them, knowing that we've got their back and we're going to get them to a point where we can have those beautiful numbers always up to date and accurate, which is pillar 1 for success, right? Which I've talked about in other podcasts. So the reason I'm telling you this is it's part of how we take a fixed price to an outcome bill in order to build your thriving practice before you delight the client and live your dream on your terms, because it is linear, okay? And that, I just want to remind you, is the oxygen mask, because as we move into more of the detail, it's really important to understand that the way that you will give to and support and love your clients, the way that I do, my clients literally tell me, Jeannie, I love you. So the way that you're going to love your clients is to put your oxygen mask on first. And that means pricing for profit, right? And when you price for profit, I promise you the joy will come. So imagining that we are always going to offer clients, when they get to this stage in the journey, and we show them what it looks like for us to handle their work on a monthly basis, whether that's they fall into one of two categories. They are 20% of people that can do it themselves and they need us to support them, or they're in the 80% that really either want or need the bookkeeping done for them, then we are going to do it for them, okay? But they sit in one of these camps, and those camps, my friends, is part of the smart, simple suite of products, rather than that, what do you need? Here it is, there's a price attached. So that camp A and camp B, DIY bookkeeper who needs support, full service bookkeeping package, okay? And I just told you there, it tends to be 80-20, 20 in camp A, 20 in camp B. So regardless of which camp they're in, we are going to offer to investigate the numbers with them on a monthly basis, also on a quarterly basis, okay? As at the time of recording this podcast, we offer up 3 options. It's not 100% essential that you do that. We do it, but there is also nothing wrong with just offering up the option that you believe they should take up, which for us is, it's always the one with the investigate the numbers monthly, okay? And when I offer up the 3 options, so I'm not giving this to you linear right now, so I want you to go back and listen to this podcast series, the 3-part series, plan and then pricing 1 and 2, maybe a couple of times so you can really get the gist of it. It is like a mini course, so maybe pen and paper, write things down. But basically, when I use Ignition software, I use the feature where you can make one of the 3 packages recommended. And I always, with my hand on my heart, recommend that they pay attention to their numbers on a monthly basis, because guess what? That is how the 1 out of 10 businesses get the fundamental pillar 1 for success right. So they actually held accountable to their numbers, so they can see how the business is performing in terms of profit and cash, and they can make decisions based on the result. It's actually really, really simple, and it is globally recognized. So I do hope that you see that that is the package you should be recommending, and actually you should be doing that in your practice. Okay, you should be investigating your own numbers, and if you're not, buddy up with someone so that you can investigate the numbers for one another. So you know that we're going to offer up that advisory from the get-go. We've covered that off now. Now we'll just go back a step to how you've developed that fixed price, but how that's not necessarily an outcome price, and how we turn a fixed price into an outcome price. And in a second, I'm going to do another example to introduce you to minimum viable job charges, which is honestly, when you get that stuff right, holy cow. Okay. So in this example, my calculator is telling me $571. Yeah. Now I would normally round that up to say $595, and that would be for the base bookkeeping, also known as compliance only package, okay, where they get everything they need to stay up to date and accurate. And then we would offer a package that was maybe $100, $150, $200 more, and that would give them a quarterly meeting around their numbers. And then we would offer a package that was $200 or $300 or $400 more, that give them the monthly investigate the numbers, okay? My right hand, Joe McMahon, really takes care of the day-to-day in my bookkeeping practice now. But at the time of recording this, I think we're charging about $250 extra a month to support our clients by sitting down with them and investigating the numbers. So that would mean that I'm going to round up to about $595 and then offer that extra $200. So that's just shy of $800 if they take that up. But here's the other thing about outcome billing versus fixed price billing. There is a podcast that I did on my public podcast called Know Your Terms, Back Yourself, and then Value the Heck out of your VIP clients. There is also a concept around pricing that the best of the best in the world, okay, bookkeepers and entrepreneurs, they know this and they get it right. But it is honestly, it's less than 10% of entrepreneurs, and it's called regulate capacity with price. And here's the other thing. You are entitled to charge whatever you want to whoever you want without apologizing and without explaining yourself. Now, I'm going to give you a bit of a side note. So at $571 as the calculator rate, you should be able to make a 66% gross profit on that, okay? If you are making less than that, you need support. And if you can't get there, I recommend you talk to me about working with me or just join my program, okay? Because no pushback. I've given you the blueprint. I've tested it, measured it, done it, and the members of my program are doing it, and you can do it, okay? So if you don't get there with it, Pricing Academy program, whatever you want to get support, but you need this in your blueprint or you're going to be busy, not thriving. So while I told you I would round that up from $571 to $595, now in consultation with that prospective client who has become a client, right, because they've done the fresh eyes catch up rectification, then I might just decide that I actually want to charge $695 or $795 or $895, and that can be based on a lot of factors. Number one, regulating capacity with price. I might have just decided that that's what I want to charge based on where my practice is right now. I might decide in consultation with the client and the kind of business they're running that I want to charge more because it's just commensurate with what I think they should be paying and the numbers around a percentage of turnover spent on your finance function, especially when there's more involved. Yeah. So I'm giving you an example of someone who only needs about an hour and a quarter a week. But with clients, the more they need, the more this will come into play. Okay. Now, this leads to, I want you to price like an entrepreneur, not as an employee. So as I explain this stuff, if your head goes to a place where you start to say, but that sounds like ripping the client off, but that sounds like I don't want to rip someone off, I'm a good person, this kind of thing, you are stuck deeply, firmly in employee mindset. And on the blueprint, you'll see in the first part of what you need to get right as a bookkeeper in practice is your mindset. And let me tell you right now, you are running a business. You're not an employee anymore. Listen to podcast number 2 in my public podcast. So the second podcast I ever recorded will go into this. I'm going to come back to, you need to price much more like a real estate agent who charges for the outcome, a percentage for the outcome, okay? So I'm not going to go too deep on this, but the moral of the story is what you calculate as a bare ass minimum fixed rate is not the ending point. And I'm going to let you know that you need to go on a journey around this stuff, a journey around pricing where you allow your mindset and your ideology to shift little by little by little. And that's exactly what happens inside the program. Now, in this example, I said 571. Let's just say I went to 595, okay? Now, if I go to 595 over 571, you might think that's not that much. But here's what I want you to consider, okay? Even if I only go to 595 and then they pick up the investigate the numbers monthly, which with everything we do inside the program. So when you look at the blueprint, and absolutely go for it, put this in your bookkeeping practice playbook, DIY, build it out yourself. They're your options. Do it yourself or come in and get help with me, okay? But what I want to give you as an example is when we have all the moving parts of the blueprint in place, then very high percentage of our prospective clients pick up that advisory piece on a monthly basis. So if I'm increasing that just by $30, okay, as a round up, and I've factored in everything and I'm charging the rates that I should charge, so say $100 an hour on average, and then they pick up virtual CFO, I want to give you a bit of a before and after of what you might be doing right now versus what I've just told you before we move into robust pricing strategy, which I'll probably do in a separate podcast because this one's gone long enough, okay? Now, based on what I'm calculating, let's look at revenue and gross profit. Okay, because I know that 9 out of 10 bookkeepers are probably charging 40 to 50% less than they should be. So in this example where I said $100 an hour, what are you charging right now? End of August 2024. What's your calculator rate if you're fixed pricing, or what are you charging by the hour? If it's less than $100 an hour, in this example that I'm giving you, it would be a really good exercise for you to even pause the podcast and do a now analysis. So you say to yourself, oh, okay, so in the example Jeannie's giving me, I would have charged out this, therefore my revenue would have been this, therefore my profit, if I'm paying my staff, and think about your staff situation. Who have you got on the team? If you haven't, remember you've got to take a third away from that rate if it's just you, okay? Because that's what the day-to-day business will be costing you, even though you haven't realized or accepted that. So work out revenue and profit on that job, either with staff or without staff, okay? And then I'm going to tell you mine. So assuming that our client has said yes to the package and wants us to investigate the numbers on a monthly basis, okay? So that client that needed an hour and a quarter of technical bookkeeping work a week, here's the profitability on that account now. It is $647 a month or $7,700 a year. So that's gross profit, okay? So that is taking into account a staff member doing the job, okay, and the software, etc. Okay, so even if we're really, really conservative, we could reduce that down to $7,000 profit on that client who basically wanted about an hour and a quarter of technical work from us. Go back and listen to the podcast and hear the moving parts, okay? Because this is about charging out an appropriate rate in your calculator, first thing, okay? It's about turning a fixed price into an outcome bill. In this case, all I did was round up. It's about selling advisory from the get-go it is about getting your staffing situation right, okay? And that is no small feat. And we help you with that inside the program, okay? So if you're really, really struggling with that and you don't manage to get it right, remembering that you've got my book, because one of the things is to learn how to lead and manage properly and unapologetically. I've done podcasts on that, but my book, okay, the Strategic Bookkeeper Secret Sauce Recipe, gives you a lot of help on that. When you use my blueprint, when you do exactly what we do inside the program and the blueprint I give you, this is the result that you get. So now future analysis, we've talked about smart, simple suite of products and incorporating advisory, okay? I want you to really look at what you would have done with that client who needs an hour and a quarter a week. And consider this. Number one, if you're charging out rates that are lower than bare ass minimum, which is about $100 an hour, right, in Australia right now, that pushes your cost of sales up. So let's say you're charging out $70. And then if you're not offering advisory, let me tell you the kind of profit, if you've got staff doing that you'll make versus what I just told you. $1,820 a year is what you'll make, if you're getting it wrong. And all you've got to be doing to be getting it wrong is charging out 30% less than what I talked about. And most bookkeepers I see are charging 40 to 50% less than they should, okay? And then not understanding how to sell advisory from the get-go. I mean, don't even get me started on low conversion rates, which is where a PC comes in and you do not convert 70% of them into high value clients. So we look at that, let's round up. Let's say that you are able to pull $2,000 profit out of that kind of client versus $7,000. That's $5,000 more. And if we times that by the next 10 average clients you bring on, that's $50,000, okay, that you're not putting into your practice. And this is the multiplier, the common denominator that I see with bookkeepers. Moral of the story, my friends, use the blueprint, okay, and everything that I'm teaching you here to get the result, because it only takes a small shift in the wrong direction to get that you are now getting a fraction of the profitability, okay? And then it only takes a small shift and steps in the right direction to double your net profit, as you hear in that story I shared in the last podcast, and as I share like live with this bookkeeper inside the Pricing Academy, okay? Now, a word on the Pricing Academy. It's awesome. Join it, grab it, use it. But I'm going to put my hand on my heart and say that my preference would be to have you inside my transformation program. If pricing is your only problem, then the Pricing Academy is the option for you. But my passion lies with giving bookkeepers the entire solution, all the pieces of the puzzle, rather than one piece of the puzzle, okay? So choose your own adventure, but I want to tell you what I really, really want for you. So I'm going to do another podcast where I just focus on robust pricing strategy. Okay, so there are 3 parts on the blueprint to rinse and repeat. Smart, simple suite of products. We've talked about that now and in the last one as well. Okay, it's actually simple, but like I say, simple doesn't mean easy. And you understand how to get your hot little hands on my simplified suite of productized services that all the bookkeepers inside my program and inside the Pricing Academy are using with ease. It's working brilliantly. And heaps of them say, oh my goodness, Jeannie, this is exactly what I was doing before, right? Bundling up everything that the client needs versus moving to what I show them, and it's transformational, okay? And then robust pricing strategy, we'll cover that off in the next podcast, and incorporating advisory, okay? So I'm going to leave you there on this one. Okay, my friend, now it is time to take action. So what are you going to do with what you learned today? The way I see it, you've got 2 options. You can go it alone to try and save some money, or you can back yourself and go for it and join my tribe. And let me tell you, we are knocking it out of the ballpark. That's not a sales pitch. That is me serving you, dare I say, courageously. To find success, I 100% know you need the mechanics, which is like the keys to the kingdom, but you also need to get your mindset right and be super productive. And these are all things I help you with inside the program. I could go on about this forever because I really want this for you. Have a prosperous week, and I'll see you in the next episode.